Welcome, brave adventurer, to Dragon Hoard, the show where we dig up forgotten gems, cursed scrolls, and probably a few sentient gelatinous cubes from the dusty pages of Dragon magazine. Today we're cracking open issue number 1, released in 1976, back when dragons were hand-drawn, Mountain Dew came in glass bottles, and game balance was a myth spoken of only by the elves. Dragon Rumbles is the editorial opener, and it's part rallying cry, part awkward newsletter. TSR had just moved from a house organ zine to a full magazine, and they were ready to party with dice. They promised reviews, fiction, game rules, homebrew madness, and plenty of unsolicited opinions, basically the 1976 version of Reddit. But enough backstory, let's get to the good stuff. And by good stuff, I mean a sarcastic wizard and a barbarian who thinks thoughts are for cowards. Yes, Fritz Leiber himself drops in with the twain Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, who are deeply confused about wargamers like. The Mouser wants to charge a toll for entering Nawan. Fafhrd thinks mental combat is sick, and they both suspect some players are stabbing each other under the table. Honestly, not far off. Also, there's a full rule set for adding a new character class, the Hari. Their job is to confuse enemy troops by existing. So after a sarcastic sword and sorcery roast and a questionable gender mechanic, where do we go next? How about trying to lift a boulder with your charisma stat? How to use non-prime requisite attributes? Wesley D. Ives says, hey, what if all your D&D stats actually did something? This article gives a percentage-based system for using strength, dexterity, charisma, even constitution to attempt wild tasks. Want to roll a boulder? Multiply a D12 roll by your strength. Want to convince your henchmen not to flee? Multiply a D8 roll by your charisma. Want to tie your shoes in a dungeon trap? That's dexterity, baby. And yes, Grodd the fighter is back with his 17 strength and emotional baggage. Alright, that was surprisingly practical. But let's stop rolling dice and start launching laser spheres from dimension-hopping techno-wizards. Magic and science, are they compatible in D&D? In this glorious fever dream of an article, James M. Ward, yes, that James M. Ward of Metamorphosis Alpha fame says, why not both? He introduces a race of tech-wielding dimension hoppers called the Artificers. Think, Atlanteans with sci-fi gadgets who got bored and plane shifted into your medieval fantasy world just to mess with your fireball-happy wizard. The Artificers bring with them their secret weapon, spheres. These floating orbs are basically death Roombas. They hover around you, zap your enemies, heal your wounds, and ignore all known balance rules. There are 3 sizes of spheres, and like fast food, the smaller ones are actually the most dangerous. Here's the breakdown. Large spheres, 15-foot, disintegrate blast, shields, heat rays. Medium spheres, more destructive. Think mini nukes with hover capabilities. Small spheres, oh these? Just charm monster, fear ray, and anti-magic shell. You know, everyday dungeon essentials. Saving throws? Maybe. Kinda. Depends. Good luck. Artificers also carry crystalline pistols that fire spheres. That's right, they shoot spheres that activate upon impact. They've got color-coded effects like some kind of unholy gumball machine of annihilation. Here are just a few of the flavors. Red sphere, 15-foot radius heat blast. Incinerates everything, including your magic items. Black sphere, like the disintegrate spell, but meaner. Clear. Sphere. Disenchants every magic item in the area. No save. Say goodbye to your +3 sword of doing cool stuff. Brown sphere. Creates a 15-foot maze illusion so confusing that your fighter might start debating philosophy. Purple sphere casts death spell, classic. Silver sphere summons a wall of diamond-hard crystal that instantly plugs doorways like a sadistic Lego brick. And then it gets weirder. The Artificers have a giant floating analog computer that can analyze spells in real time and counter them. It's like if HAL 9000 got tenure at the College of Evocation. Its one weakness, rigid logic. So if your players quote Monty Python fast enough, they might short-circuit it. I cast Charm Monster on the sphere. I'm sorry, Dave, I'm already charmed. This article basically says, hey DM, are your players getting too cocky? Drop a floating murder sphere into the dungeon and let science handle it. And you know what? I respect it. Languages by Lee Gold. This article goes deep on languages in D&D. You've got Common, Elvish, Orcish, and then it goes completely off the rails with languages like wall, where St. Bernard, and equine aristocrat. An elf in one campaign only spoke Minotaur so he could insult party members. Another learned wall and asked a stone hallway what was behind it, and it replied, "I don't know, I'm plastered." There's also a 70% chance a horse understands mule. No follow-up questions, please. So after that linguistic roller coaster, you might be wondering, where's the monster? The big scary thing to haunt our dreams? Well, buckle up. It's time for the original Nightmare Nugget. Creature feature, the Bulette, Landshark. Alright, strap in, folks. It's time for Creature feature, and Dragon Magazine #1 doesn't just tiptoe into the bestiary, it jumps in jaws first with the Bulette, also known as the Landshark. What is a Bulette? Picture an armored tank. Now give it the mouth of a great white shark, the temperament of a wasp in August, and the appetite of a teenage half-orc. That's your Bulette. Lore-wise, it's the unholy love child of a snapping turtle and an armadillo, with maybe some badger thrown in for spite. It can grow up to 11 feet tall, and that's tall, not long. This thing is like the Shaquille O'Neal of dungeon horrors. The Bulette will eat just about anything, alive or dead, but it has preferences. According to the write-up, it loves horses, adores hobbits, and absolutely loathes dwarves. Yes, that's right, it actively avoids elves but will dig hobbits out of their holes like a truffle pig on a carb binge. Somewhere in Middle-earth, Samwise is screaming. Also, if it's hungry enough, it will attack armed adventuring parties, because it doesn't care about your AC. It wants your cleric's warhorse like it's horse tartare night at the dungeon buffet. So how does the Bulette fight? With surprising stealth, terrifying speed, and a mouth that can bite a warhorse in half. That's not an exaggeration, it literally says that. It's nearly impossible to surprise, has a 90% stealth approach rate, and it can jump up to 8 feet vertically, which is frankly more terrifying than any dragon I've met. And when cornered, it'll flail at you with all 4 claws. Ever fought a blender filled with steak knives? That's the vibe. Good luck hitting it. It's got near impenetrable armor everywhere, except 2 places, the tiny eyes and the soft under crease on its back, which is only visible when it raises its crest during an attack. In other words, you'll get maybe 1 shot at the fleshy bit, otherwise it's Bite City. Also, its scales are extremely valuable, because of course they are. The Search for the Forbidden Chamber parody story. This short story is like Monty Python moved into a Greyhawk module. Meet Dimwit the Dwarf, Lumbo the Elf, and Ralph the Wizard. Together they get lost in a dungeon filled with torches, traps, and Greyhawk construction signs. Highlights include Lumbo offering a MasterCard to open a locked door, a Recyclesaurus attacking, an Eveready flashlight being treated like a holy relic, and a cursed key that makes you crave pistachio ice cream. Honestly, I'd read an entire novel about this party, and I'd still root for the Recyclesaurus. And that, fellow Hoard hunters, was Dragon Magazine #1. It's funny, it's weird, it's brilliant, and it's a glorious mess. It gave us our first monster, introduced sci-fi into fantasy, and proved that if you can't find treasure, you can always hallucinate a maze. Next time, we crack open issue #2, where the chaos continues, the articles get weirder, and the monsters get somehow even hungrier. Let me know in the comments, would you fight a Bulette? Would you let a player speak wall? And should we stat out the Recyclesaurus? Like, subscribe, and roll high. I'll see you next time in the Dragon Horde.